Now that we've designed for mobile first, we can move on to our other device sizes. Remember what it means for design mobile first? It means that in your CSS, you code your base styles for the phone device. And so we've created those base styles that we want to work on the phone. Notice how they're doing it on all sizes, because that's the only thing that we have currently in our style, is that very foundation of our phone style. So we've got that mobile first already coded. Now we also have our styles left from our desktop design, but we've put them in comments. We have two sections of comments. We have one up here and one section down here that has the grid system. So we need to create a style rule that will be applied when the device gets wider. To do that, we're going to use the app media rule. So you do app media, and then you specify which media type. Remember, there's screen and print, and we're going to do it only on print, only on screen. And we're going to specify a width. And the way we do that is we're going to specify a min width. And we're going to say apply these styles when the screen is at least this big. So we're going to put 992 pixels. And what this says, as long as the screen is bigger than 992 pixels, apply these styles. If it gets more narrow, so once it hits minimum of 992, then no longer apply it. So we're going to make this a whole style block. So we're going to put an opening quote here and then the closing quote after this grid system that we want to use. And then we can take the comments off of here and refresh and save it, and then go back and refresh. Notice how there is no change, and that is because we haven't reached this minimum width yet. The minimum width for these styles to apply is 992, and we're far smaller than that. So we haven't reached that min width yet. So let's go ahead and make it bigger, bigger, bigger. Still haven't reached that minimum width. Make it even bigger. And now we reach that minimum width. And we see that these column percentages go into play. And now our column 9 shows up to be 75% wide, and our column 3 shows up to be 25% wide. And so these styles now applied as soon as we reach this minimum width of 992 pixels. Notice that our header and navigation styles still look the way that we have them designed for the phone, and that's because we've commented out all of our desktop styles. Now we don't want to uncomment them here, or else they become the base, and we want the mobile to stay the base. So I'm going to take them out of here and move them down inside this at media rule so that they will only be applied as long as the screen is bigger than that minimum width. And now I save that and refresh. And some things are okay and some things are not. So there are two things we want to do. We want to fix the style so that it works, and then we want to get rid of redundant rules. So first, let's fix the style we want. Remember that we moved the nav outside the header? Well, we can't go back into the HTML and change that because it would make it not work for the phone. So we have to do this with CSS and something that we can put inside here. So we can make this change by using margin and padding. And I'm going to do this in the nav. I don't currently have a style block that's just nav by itself, so I'm going to add one. And I'm going to set the margin top to -60 pixels. And this will move it up minus -60 from where it needs to be. And that looks good there, but when I go to the other pages, notice how things shuffle up here. And that's because they're following right behind. And so I've moved the navigation up, and this is moved up as well. So now I want to put a padding bottom on here to move those other things away. So now I'm going to put padding bottom, and I'm going to make this the same, 60 pixels. So now when I refresh, There, it moves things back down where we expect them to be. So as I check out each of the pages, they're lining up the way that I expected them. So that's how we moved that nav back up there, strictly using CSS. We see that there's still a few things that need to change. The border, we need to get rid of the top and bottom borders because we didn't want those there. And we've got this little gap to deal with. We can get rid of the border simply by saying border none. And then to get rid of the gap, we need to adjust the left and right margins. So I'm going to set the margin, and notice I'm just doing these on the A links, not on the nav itself. I want the top and bottom to be 0 and the left and right to be -2 pixels. And that should be enough to get rid of that gap. Let's refresh. And we got rid of the border, and let's see if we got rid of the gap. We'll be able to tell as we move from one to the other if there's any gap between them. See how there's no gap between those colors? So we're good. We got rid of the gap and the borders. So now we've got our navigation header back the way that we wanted, our columns back the size that we want, and this is looking like the way we want it for our desktop. There is one more step that we need to do now, and that is get rid of the redundant settings. So if we check out the settings that we have up here for our mobile, for our smallest mobile, there's going to be some of the settings in here that we do not need, that are the same. And so we don't need to reset them. I'm going to copy those header styles down here, and we're going to look at them individually and see which ones are redundant that we no longer need. So in our header, the background color is set, so we don't need to do that. The height is different, so we do need to leave that. So we've cleaned up the redundant styles for that. For the image, the float left is already set, so we don't need to redo that. Notice I took it out of the comment. That doesn't work. I need to take it out of the part that's in the media rule, right? Inside that app media rule. So I take the float left out of there. I'm going to leave the padding left because it has a different value. And the height has a different value. But the width auto stays the same. Notice we picked that up without even checking it out. So that's everything in the header image that was redundant. In the header 1, the color's already set, so we don't need that. The padding top is a different value and the padding left is a different value, so we need to leave both of those. Now what about the header 1 span? Display none. Oh, this is something that we didn't catch. Notice that if we go over here and we go to the learning style, we're on this big size and now we're missing that span. Remember those words that used to be there? So let's go ahead and change this. Let's go ahead and add header H1. If there's a span in there, go ahead and change the display to, now spans are inline, so we're just going to put it back where it was, back to inline. We save that, go back here and refresh, and there we get it. So now on our desktop size, we can have that entire heading. Okay, and that's that for the heading ones. Let's do the same thing with the navigation style. Let's go up and capture what's already being set and move it down here into this comment so we can check it out. This is too big for me to see both at the same time, so I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller, and we can see that our nav isn't set up here, the margin top and padding bottom. We need to leave those there. What about our nav UL? Well, list style type, margin 0 and padding 0 are already set. So we see those up there, so we can get rid of those. Now I can make it bigger again. The nav LI inline block is already set. Line height and height of 40 pixels is already set. The width is different. Here it's 100% and now we want it 132 pixels, so we need to leave that the same. What about our links? The display block is already set. The padding left is not, so that's not redundant. The color is redundant because it's already set, so we'll take that out. And the margin is not redundant. Let's go down to the hover, and the hover color is redundant. and the background color isn't set. Is set, and it's the same as we want. So when we refresh, we want that background color to be the same, so we're glad that's set. That leaves us with an empty style rule that we can simply get rid of. And there, we've done the second phase, and that is to remove any of the redundant style rules. So we've added the style rules we needed for our desktop layout, and then removed any redundant rules. And now we have two of our layouts, the desktop and the phone. And notice how it moves from one to the other when the screen size hits that minimum width of 992 pixels.